All right. Happy Monday. Happy Motivational Monday. Healing Journey Reflections. I am excited to be back on this Monday. It was freezing outside today, but it was also sunny. So it was still a gorgeous day. I don't know how your week has started out, but I hope that you have had a beautiful start to your week. And I want to get right into it because this topic I feel is really important with the holiday season coming up. Whether you celebrate holidays traditionally or you have a different way of doing holidays, this can be a season that's really tough on people, especially because honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this. It has happened so fast. 2023 is almost here, and a lot of people might be thinking, oh my gosh, there's only a month and a couple weeks to go. Things aren't where I want them to be in my life. I am not happy. I am stressed. I am panicked. I don't know even what the next year is going to bring. And so yes, I think this is a really important topic. I think it is something that most people want, and that is happiness. All right. Most people want to be happy. Who doesn't want to be happy? I want to be happy, right? Do you want to be happy? Right? Who wants to be unhappy? But here is the thing. I, in preparation for this live, did a little quick research, the nerd in me, right? I said, let me bring some data into this conversation so people also just understand that while it is the biggest thing that we look for, maybe even more than love, because we think that love will mean happiness, right? Or more than we think, like money, we think might bring happiness, our work, or getting our parents to approve of like us going to college or the work we do, right? Or awards, whatever. We think those things are going to bring us happiness. Let me tell you, I just did stats for America, right? So I think it's different. Not I think, I know it's different for other countries, right? But here in the United States, we can't even say it was the events that took place in 2020, although happiness absolutely did plummet in the United States. But in 2018, well before things fell apart in many people's lives, they were falling apart. 2018, 31% of adults said they were happy. In 2016, a third of Americans said they were happy. Now, I don't know. I didn't look up what the population of the United States is in America, so I don't know what that number is, but that's less than half. So 31% is not a good look. And yet here we are, we're doing all of these things, right? People are leveling up their lives, so to speak, at least on a surface level, all mostly what? For the pursuit of happiness, right? But where is it? Why are people not happy? Now, in 2020, about 14% of people said they were happy. Now, everything in people's lives really turned upside down. So, let's just say that 14% is not really surprising. But the 31% from 2018, that should be a little bit shocking, especially when, if you travel outside of the United States and you go places, you see where life in America has so many comforts and conveniences and things, luxuries that you would think would make people happy, but they don't. Why? Because things don't bring happiness. Now, things bring convenience, right? It's convenient for me to have my own car, but having my own car does not make me happy, right? I just had someone texted me earlier this evening some good news, and I said, oh my goodness, that makes me so happy to hear that. But guess what? Before my friend texted me good news, guess what? I was also happy. It was just kind of like the cherry on top. So there are things, obviously, that happen in our life, right? That kind of expand or are, they're just so nice that we're like, yes, I'm really happy, right? And they're compatible and they go with happiness, but by themselves, that's not what happiness is. And so I think a lot of times in our culture, the way it's set up is that I remember the very first thing people would ask me, and I'm talking about when I was like in first grade. I remember my grandmother's brother, so it was my great uncle, was like, well, who's your boyfriend? So from a very young age, we are groomed to think that we have to have a special relationship. And I'm not saying that not special relationships aren't special and don't give like that bonus happiness, right? I'm not saying relationships are a bad thing. What I'm saying is we're kind of like from very young getting these messages that we have to do certain things. Then the other question that would be followed up with, so who's your boyfriend, would be, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Don't know. I'm a kid. I like everything. Look, I'm now an adult and I still like everything. I don't want to be one thing. So here's the deal. We're kind of like put into all of these channels that are supposedly going to bring happiness. And obviously they don't. In June 15, 2022, there was an article written. It didn't go super far and deep into the statistics on like happiness in America, but I found this interesting. It said, some Americans, the title of the article was, some Americans have forgotten what it means to be truly happy, survey says. What? Not only do a lot of people do they not feel happy? They don't even remember what that means. So that means that there's a lot of people walking around confused. And if you're confused, you're going to not know how to get to where you want to be. And that is why I decided I would make this video this evening on this topic. And in fact, I'm thinking, I haven't fully decided, but I'm thinking what I'm going to do is like a series on how to get what you want. And not in a manipulative sort of way, because we don't always get what we want, right? Maybe I want chocolate cake for dessert. There's no chocolate cake on the menu at the restaurant. I have to settle for cheesecake. I'm still going to be happy. Or just no dessert at all, right? So I'm not saying like you always get what you want in the sense of a spoiled brat, like entitled, but like get those important things that make our life enjoyable. And happiness is something that we can enjoy. And I am not just saying this. Oh, my phone's ringing. I'm not just saying this from theory. This past year has been rough. It's the first year that I found myself having to be a small business owner. There have been times I did not know where I was going to or how I was going to pay the rent, keep a roof over my head. I still do not know how things are going to work out, if I'm going to be really transparent. But guess what? I'm not going to let that make me every day not happy. Even though it has been a struggle, literally a daily struggle this year, every day, one step at a time. Most people, if they text me, they'll be like, how's it going? Or they call me on the phone, or I see them in person. They'll be like, how you doing? How's it going? I will tell them I'm doing good, thankfully. Why? Because even though things have been really rough, those things aren't going to define my happiness. So I want to shed some light and share with you how I have been able to still be happy, even though literally my life kind of flipped upside down financially. The things like money is a tool, right? It sure is convenient, but it does not buy happiness. It can buy peace of mind, right? It can buy a lot of things, but it's not going to buy the happiness. That's probably also why there's a lot of people who seem to have it all and then don't make it. Famous people, right? Like Miss America or Miss USA. She chose to go off of the top of a building, right? But it looked like she had all of the things, right? The business, the work, the awards, but something was missing, right? And that's also why it's important that we also do check in with people. How are you doing? So that if they're really not doing well, maybe we can get a sense of it. So here is how you can be happy. This is something that I have done this year. Psalm 1, verses 1 through 3. It says, "Oh, the joys of those who don't follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join with mockers." Wait, oh, the joys? So if I don't hang out with wicked people, I'm going to be happy? Yep. First of all, the first thing I want to do, or stand around with sinners, or join with mockers. People who are like laughing, making fun of people, kind of gossiping, like, you like, just in general, nasty people, right? So our circle of friends, now of friendships, to be clear, we are not to find our happiness or put our happiness in them, but who we do have around us, and more importantly, who we don't have around us, that brings us joy. And I was thinking about it, right? And that has been true in my life. The people who are closest to me aren't any of those things. They're not wicked. They're not standing around in sin. No one's perfect. I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about you're progressing and you're doing your best in life. Joining with mockers. Yeah, I don't hang around with those people. That's probably in part why I've been able to have peace and happiness this year. Here's the other thing. The other part in Psalm 1, verses 1 through 3, it says, "But they delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night." Now, I don't want this to be, when we think of laws, a lot of times, especially depending on what someone's church background is, thankfully, I never grew up or was really in that type of situation, but there are a lot of like cultures, Christian cultures, that are very legalistic, where you have to do this. You can't wear lipstick. You have to wear a skirt. It has to be like this much above your knee, or no, not above your knee, this much below your knee. Like, there's like all of these rules. It's not talking about that. At least that's not my interpretation. Meditating on it day and night. There are certain laws and principles that God gives us. Here is a big one, and I've been talking about it all year. In fact, I can tell you it literally changed my life, and that's how I'm able to even make these lives on YouTube and Facebook most every Monday evening. Here's a law: forgiveness. All right, I have a 20-day forgiveness journal. That's how important it has been in my life. When we are holding a grudge, when we're angry, if we are putting our happiness in someone else's care, because that's really what we're doing when we are not forgiving someone. But it is literally an expectation. God says, I am not going to be listening to your prayers if you do not forgive someone else. This is just like a basic law. And forgiveness, when we do choose it, things that it does, it naturally increases self-esteem. Let me tell you, I am a Christian confidence coach. I will tell you, forgiveness is the biggest, huge confidence boost. Because when you're mad, when you're angry at someone, you're embarrassed about what happened to you, you're embarrassed what was done to you, you're hiding, you're also just like, it's just like this dark cloud, storm cloud brewing around in your mind. Even on the days when you're not actively focusing on it, it's kind of there. You go into other circles, other social situations, other relationships, other professional relationships, where, other settings where, similar to the situation you were in with the person who hurt you. And then, like, your mind starts telling you these stories about, well, the last time I went out on a date with a man, it ended up that he was married, and then he did this and he did that, and I didn't know that. And then there was all the drama that ensued. Yeah, you just sat down at dinner with this new man. You don't know anything about him, and most likely he is single. Right? But you are here because of the unforgiveness. You are creating these new scenarios a lot of times about how there's no good men out there, or there's no good people in general out there. Like, people are dirty, and people can be dirty. I'm not saying that everyone out there is good, because listen, it starts this Psalm, first chapter in Psalms. It's like the first Psalm. Psalm 1, first chapter. God is telling us how to be happy. He starts out and says, don't follow the advice of the wicked. Don't stand around with the sinners. You watch TV all the time. What are you putting into your brain? What thoughts are you feeding your spirit? You like, what are you feeding yourself with? The stuff on the news is programming that's not great. It's not going to lead to happiness. Turn the thing off. Call a friend. Go out. Take a walk in the park. Anything. But turn off the TV. I don't even own a TV. I am so glad I don't. I think it's definitely, I'm not saying throw your TV out, but I will say I am getting down a little bit of a rabbit hole, right? I'm going to get back on track. But I will say that not having a TV, the reason why I got it is because it was distracting me from, like, growing and developing my business. I got rid of it years ago. And it was taking up time that I thought it didn't deserve. How is it going to help me do the things that I wanted to do in life? And a lot of the happiness is like that output, that fulfillment of going out, right? And just enjoying life instead of just being in a spot where you're living your life through someone else's programming. But anyway, back to Psalm 1, verses 1 through 3. It says, those who delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. So if I am meditating on the wrongs, like the unforgiveness, I'm going back to this example. I'm thinking how I was done wrong, how this person hurt me day and night. I'm not going to be happy. But if I forgive them, it's not something that's occupying my mind so much. So now I'm thinking about new things. What am I going to have for dinner tonight? I'm just going to be thinking about different things. I'm going to be thinking more loving thoughts, right? I'm going to be thinking just in general, like high level thoughts. So these types of people who meditate on God's laws, they are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit each season. Their leaves never wither, and they prosper in all they do. I don't know what to tell you. It is. And it's something that I have been, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I think that a lot of times we make things too complicated, and we think, oh, it can't be that simple. Like, a happiness, to be happy, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to achieve, I even have to be a good person. Well, if you're doing these things, none of us are good, right? We all have our flaws. We all have things that we're not proud of. But each day, if we're doing these things, if we are delighting in the law of the Lord, and I'm not talking about in a legalistic way, I'm literally talking about, it will say like, blessed are the peacemakers, right? So instead of like gossiping, if you're out there helping others, right? You're helping. There's a lot of people, for example, right now who are organizing giveaways for Thanksgiving, turkey giveaways. What are they thinking about? They're thinking about good things. They are thinking about how they're going to help someone else, right? That's actually a concept, right? A basic principle, a law of in the Bible where we have to help the poor. It literally says all sorts of places. There's a lot of verses in the Bible about money, and there's a lot of blessed are those who help the poor, the needy. Jesus is like, well, if you didn't, feed me, clothe me. God doesn't need clothing or food, right? But he's talking about like those people who are in need, because people, when they're in need, they don't have food on the table to feed their family. They're praying to God and they're like, God, I don't know how I'm going to feed my family dinner next week. Like, I don't know. I don't have it. Can you please provide for me? And how are those people's prayers going to be answered if we don't do something? Giving of our time, giving of our like monetary funds, whatever it is, right? You're giving to someone else. You're helping someone who is in a position that they're struggling at this point in their time, and you're helping pull them up, right? That's a law of God, and you're going to be happy doing that, right? Usually if you go to an event and people are serving, right? When I've gone to like events that were held at homeless shelters or battered women's shelters, right? Those of us who were there serving the women or the children, we would be doing it with a smile, and it would be fun. It would be so much fun. It's always fun. I've never gone out and helped someone and be like, well, I had a bad time doing that. It can be exhausting, of course, right? Because you're putting so much energy out, but you're thinking good things. You're meditating on good things. You're thinking about how you're going to make someone else's life better. Sometimes that's all it takes. We are meant as humans to be connected, to be together, to be in community. And part of that is just doing something to bless someone. Smile at someone. How are you going to be sad? How are you going to be having a bad day? How are you going to be unhappy when you smile at someone and say thank you at the grocery store? I don't know how that's going to happen. Your body can't do multiple things at once, or if you're doing like opposing things, you're going to be all stressed out, right? So I think I'll probably be talking about that at another date. But these are simple things, and these things give us happiness, right? So getting rid of the people who are not around us, who are not up to any good, and then focusing our thoughts on the good things, the laws of the Lord. And like I said, it's not in a legalistic way of like, I can't put on lipstick. I remember I was in Russia. Oh my gosh, this was years ago. And I couldn't wear any makeup. I was with this group, and it was like a short-term missions group. We were not allowed to wear makeup at all, like zero makeup. I'll be honest, I cheated and I put on a little mascara, but no lipstick, nothing. Why? Because they said real Christians don't wear makeup. Whatever. I'm not talking about those types of laws and rules. Those types of laws and rules are not, that's not the type of delight in the law. All right. You're just going around trying to be perfect and fit yourself into box. the laws of the Lord, forgiveness, love. The greatest commandment of all is to love love God and love others as we love ourselves. That's the law, really, in short. When the disciples and other people would ask Jesus, so what is it that I really have to do? You just have to love. And if you have that, if you're doing that, you're working towards that. And it's I'll be honest, it's not always easy, right? Sometimes some people are harder to love than others, right? It can be a struggle. It can be sometimes a struggle. But that is the key to happiness. So, if you are watching this video and you happen to have forgotten what it means or what it's like to be truly happy, go back, reread Psalm 1. You could read the whole chapter, but Psalm 1 verses 1 through 3 pretty much lays it out. And it says also that their leaves never wither and they prosper in all they do. So that means Facebook user Schneidine, yes, we must love. It brings fulfillment, and sometimes we do get hurt in love. And then there's that whole forgiveness aspect, right? It can be really complicated. But at the end of the day, that it's that. All of the other commandments, I don't remember how many laws there were. Facebook users, amen on reading Psalms. Yes. The whole book is really good. There's so many things in there. But I just wanted to keep it real simple for people on, how to be happy. Yes, we do get hurt when we love so hard. We do. And I made videos on that before, but it does say at the beginning, it does give us a guide. It also says, I forget the exact verse, unless I've looked it up in advance and written down the actual reference. I don't remember them offhand, but it says that we are to be gentle as doves and wise like serpents. So even in our love, it doesn't mean that, I feel like I should say this, it doesn't mean that we just like throw ourselves all in without any wisdom and just like wild abandonment. And that is whether it's in a romantic relationship, in a friendship, in like a work situation. Because, my coworkers, when I was teaching, I loved my coworkers, right? It wasn't a romantic type of love, but I really loved the other teachers I taught with. And a couple of them, I really missed them. Like, I just enjoyed working with them. So there's all different types of love. So it's not like we just throw ourselves in with no wisdom. We are supposed to be wise like serpents, even though we are to be gentle like doves. So it has that gentleness, that respect, and everything that we're still giving people. But we have to know not everyone's our friend, right? You could end up going to Mexico and end up dead because of the friends and the people you chose to be with. So, right? Tragedy, like really horrible things can happen when we just like go about love and say, well, God is love. And so I'm going to love. Even Jesus had his boundaries, right? I think I'm getting really off track from what I was originally talking about, but it does have to do with our happiness because we do have to protect ourselves. If he didn't really do many miracles in his hometown, he wasn't really received. Did he stay in his hometown and say, oh, I love you. This is where I'm from. Please listen to me. Please believe that I'm not just Mary and Joseph's son, but that I'm really the son of the one true living God. No, he didn't stay. He didn't force himself on his hometown, right? He left and he moved on to the next town. So love doesn't mean you always just stay, right? And insist on it being a certain way, right? Then you lose that delight, right? So And it does say, oh, the joys of those who don't follow the advice of the wicked. Some people just give us really bad advice, and we have to be even thinking about, okay, I know sometimes people give us really good advice, they mean well with it, right? But it doesn't mean it's good advice. Good advice is not always good advice, right? Um, don't follow though, like, so when someone gives you advice, you may want to, depending on what that advice is, sometimes it's like really obvious, right? um and sometimes it sounds good, but it's not really the best path for us. um and so, we can pray on it, we can think about it, we can say, does this is this really the path I should be going down? It sounds good, but is it good? Right? Maybe this is good for them, maybe it's good for her, maybe it's good for him, but is it good for me? So, it does say, when we don't follow advice of the wicked or stand around with sinners. Listen, you're hanging out with a whole bunch of criminals, and they get arrested and you get arrested because you're hanging out with them. You're not going to be really happy. You're going to have a whole lot of drama now you have to sort through. I mean, that's a really cut and dry, obvious example, but you get the point. Or join with mockers. How are other people talking that you're around? And I've spoken on it before, and I think I'm repeating myself again from this evening. But how are other people who you're around talking about other people? Well, if it's disrespectful, if people are laughing and being sarcastic, maybe you shouldn't hang around with them. So I feel like Psalm 1 verses 1 through 3 just gives pretty solid advice on happiness. And it is something that I have focused on, right? This year, in my hard up and down all around year. So I remember what God's promises are to me. I focus on his promises. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That's a law. If I allow God to lead me, it doesn't mean it's always going to be easy, right? And he may lead me in areas that are hard, right? He never promises we are on earth. We're not in heaven. Let's get it right? Let's be real. We are on earth. It's not a perfect place. It's never going to be a perfect place. And sometimes he may lead us into something that is kind of like hard to go through, right? For whatever reason. A lot of people sometimes lose a child, their child dies. It's a hard thing to go through. God will lead the parent through the grieving process, right? It's like not an easy thing to go through, right? My grandmother, she buried my aunt, my mom's sister. She got very sick with cancer, and she just didn't make it. And it was very hard, right? My grandmother was grieving. It was not an easy process, but she did have faith, right? And God was her shepherd. So the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leadeth me beside still waters, right? So he did, even though she was grieving, and she never really stopped grieving the loss of my aunt, God still kind of led her through a grieving process, and she was still able to go through life, and she still found things to be happy about. Like, she still took delight in her garden. She still took delight in her friendships. She was like really active in the community center. She still like was baking, and she would have us over, like she still had happiness, even though, she was going through this grief. So we don't always have it easy. Happiness and easiness don't match up, right? You can have it very rough and still be happy. But when you're focusing on the right things instead of like letting your mind go all over the place or whatever, it's definitely easier to find that sweet spot of happiness in all of the chaos. So that's what I wanted to share this evening on how to be happy. I hope it helps you. And yes, next week I am going to be taking some extended time, holiday time, and enjoying life. Yes. So I will be back with you the following week. All right. So have a wonderful evening and peace.